discussion, from soul food to soulful eating. As we begin what we all hope will be a much better year in 2021, many of us will take the time to reflect on our lives and to set goals for improvement. Often, we set these goals around health or nutrition, but unfortunately, by the end of January, many will abandon these goals without really committing to a path to achieve them. With Byron Hurt's 2013 film, Soulful Junkies, as a foundation for tonight's discussion, we will explore a number of topics raised in the film and seek to answer your questions. While the movie highlights food and culture from the Black community, we have all grown up with traditions that lead to lifelong food preferences. Sometimes these foods may taste good, but they may not always be good for us. But our panelists are not here tonight to tell you what to eat, but they do believe that when it comes to improving our health, we can all succeed by taking small steps. And by taking charge of our own health, this also helps us to improve the health of those in our circle, our friends, our family, and our community. Now I'd like to introduce our guests, our panelists. First, Dr. Catherine Golar, an innovative, please wave everyone so they can find us on the street. Dr. Golar is an innovative and a physician leader who presently serves as the Chief Medical Officer for Optimus Healthcare, the largest provider of primary healthcare services in southwestern Connecticut. Prior to her role at Optimus, Dr. Golar served as Medical Director and Chief Medical Officer at healthcare centers in New York and Connecticut, helping to lead these institutions to provide high-quality medical and behavioral health care, as well as to address the social determinants of health for patients and clients from a wide variety of backgrounds and cultures. Dr. Golar believes strongly in the therapeutic benefit of helping individuals and communities identify and tap into the strengths that exist in their lives and environments, and to incorporate these strengths into healthcare based on personal values, culture, background, and preferences. So welcome, Dr. Golar.
Thank you.
Lily Latchman is the owner and founder of Keys Nutrition Keys, LLC, a nutrition consultant company that serves individuals with chronic diseases and those who want to learn about living healthier lives. She has more than 10 years experience in nutrition counseling, is a registered dietitian nutritionist, a diabetes care and education specialist, and a certified obesity and weight management specialist. Lily is passionate about helping people learn about eating healthy, and counsels on not eliminating food preferences, but modifying them to suit individual health and dietary needs. She also works at Norwalk Hospital as a diabetes nutrition educator. She's a diabetes expert contributor to the magazine Home Healthcare Now and To Be Her Village, an organization that assists underprivileged, expectant, and postpartum women. She also writes a monthly blog on diabetes and healthy lifestyles. Welcome, Lily. Mr. Pete Novajowski. Pete is the farm manager at Fairgate Farm in Stamford. Since childhood, Pete has been drawn to gardening, and while in college, realized that he truly wanted to be a farmer. He began to study herbalism, nutrition, and natural medicine and has become a Connecticut accredited nursery professional. Prior to joining Fairgate Farm, Pete spent 3 years as the head horticulturist and manager at Green Up in Stamford, where he designed living walls, organic gardens, and hydroponic systems, and where he constructed and repaired greenhouses, consulting with clients in Fairfield County and the greater New York area. Pete also worked for 7 years as general manager at Gilberti's Herb Gardens in Easton, Connecticut, the largest organic greenhouse system in New England. Welcome, Pete.
Thank you.
And finally, I'd like to introduce the members of the Fairfield County chapter, who have been instrumental in producing tonight's program. Links Quay Watkins and Agnes Wilson, members of our Health and Human Facet team, and members of the Planning Committee. I know Agnes is on the screen, if you could just wave. Ivy McKinney will monitor our chat and Q&A facilities. She'll help to curate your questions, your comments for our panelists. And our panel discussion will be moderated tonight by Stephanie Frankel, our Health and Human Services Facet Chair. And Stephanie, I'm not seeing you, but I'll hand it over to you. Just as a reminder though, we'll begin the program with the panel discussion, followed by the Q&A period. And if you would like to make comments to the panelists or pose questions, please put them in this chat facility here at the bottom of your screen. Thank you. Stephanie, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kim, for reminding us why it's so important to be here tonight. Our first topic is state of health in our community, the impact of COVID-19. I would like to start first by putting health in our community in context. And that would be by citing a study done by Data Haven. They looked at Fairfield County well-being in 2018. 63% of adults self-rated their health as very good. However, other data indicate from 2015 to 2018, adult obesity rose from 22% to 27%. So that's a 5-point increase. Dr. Golar, you're first up. Can you help us understand how healthy our community really is? And also comment on the impact that COVID-19 has had on Fairfield County.
Sure, no, I'm happy to. And the statistics that you quoted, do speak for themselves, but it's important to know that there's a correlation between health and other factors, what we call the social determinants of health. So where we live does actually play a really significant role in how healthy we are. I know that we have some slides that we're going to share with you, and what the take-home point, or the point that I want to emphasize, is that there are things that we can do to enhance our health, but it's important to know where we start. So in Connecticut, as of 2014, there was a document that was produced by the Department of Public Health called Health Connecticut 2020. And I remember that document came out and it seemed very ambitious and, sort of like, wow, 2020 is so far away. But here we are. In 2014, the leading causes of illness and death were chronic conditions like heart disease, cancer, stroke, chronic lower respiratory disease, think asthma. Some of these conditions like asthma, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, increase related to income level. So at lower incomes, there are higher rates of these illnesses. And I know that my co-panelists, Pete and Lily, are likely going to speak to that because a lot of it has to do with the food that's available. So, the statistics again speak for themselves. But what is ironic is that even though over the last 6 years, the rates of the illnesses that I've mentioned have actually decreased somewhat, the rates of two other really important associated conditions, overweight and obesity, have increased. Next slide. The health disparities, as I mentioned, really are related to characteristics, or that health disparities really speak to characteristics like race, ethnicity, sex, sexual identity, age, disability, what we call socioeconomic status, or kind of what's going on in your life financially, in terms of education and geographic location. Those factors play a role in your health. That's why this program is so important. I'm going to take a moment to thank both the folks that have taken it upon themselves to produce this program, and and, again, the folks that are on the panel together with me, because we're really trying to work together with all of the community, all of the folks in attendance, and the people you're connected to make a difference. Next slide. So I just gave you an overall view that leading causes of death are related to chronic conditions, which actually are linked to our behavior. So that's both, in one breath, it's kind of horrifying, but it's also encouraging because there are things that we can do about it. But when you kind of narrow down and look at Fairfield County, how are we doing? Well, ironically, well, maybe not so ironically, again, it depends on where you live. So a recent study by the Federal Reserve Bank in New York found that Fairfield County is the most unequal place in America when it comes to income. Differences in income lead to differences in health, so-called health disparities, and they lead in turn to differences in health outcomes. Next slide. So if you look at diabetes, here's an example. On the left, there's a slide that shows data related to ethnicity. And the top, I'm not sure how well you can see it, but I'll take you through it. The top set of bars relate to adults with diabetes in Connecticut in the period 2012 to 2014. So 6.5%, 6 out of 100 adults would have diabetes. During the same period, 14.6%, almost 15 out of 100 adults would have diabetes in that same period, and 13.8% of folks from the Latino community. If you look and see what happened to those folks with diabetes, some of them would need to go to the hospital for what we call non-traumatic lower extremity amputation. What that means is that if you've ever known someone with diabetes that loses circulation to the foot or to the leg or even a couple of toes, the toes or the leg might need to be amputated. That's a really sad, unfortunate, preventable outcome. But if you just look at the slide, 22% of folks with diabetes per 100,000 residents at the top, that's the top bar, 22% of folks would end up with amputations in the general population. But if you look at the longest bar, 61.7% of folks who are Black would end up being hospitalized and ultimately discharged, but for the same condition. So that's tragic. That's 3 times as much. Similarly, if you look at diabetes deaths, the bottom set of bars in the general population, per 100,000 people, 13.7 deaths in the white population, twice as many, more than twice as many, 28.6 in the Black population. So that's an example of a significant health disparity related to race. On the right side of the slide, if you look at the top where there's a dark blue dot, that represents Northeast Hartford. The bottom orange dot represents Westport. The big difference, economic. But it relates also, or it finds its way into life expectancy predictions. The life expectancy of a person living in Hartford, Northeast Hartford, is 68.9 years. The life expectancy of a person who's living in Westport is 89.1 years. Significant disparity. Geographic, yes, but the geography goes along with the economics. So we have work to do in Fairfield County. Next slide. COVID. What about COVID? COVID has made these health differences worse. According to the same source, Data Haven Health Equity Connecticut, this is a direct quote. Early data from across the country suggests that Black, Latino, and Indigenous communities experiencing disproportionately higher rates of infection, serious complications. So that's no surprise, or at least it's no surprise to me. I have to say, when this statistic was first being articulated, perhaps in May of last year or April, near the beginning of the COVID epidemic, some people did sound surprised. For those of us who have worked in primary care and community health, it's a predictable outcome because these health disparities exist, and COVID has actually revealed them. So if people have issues obtaining food, if people have issues obtaining housing, those issues are going to be made worse by the fact that now we have supply chain problems, and people are losing their jobs and they're losing their housing. So COVID has made these health differences worse. Next slide. The deaths due to COVID vary based on the location. What's interesting and ironic is that even though Fairfield County is the wealthiest county in the country, it also has the greatest health disparity. If you compare again, Hartford and Greenwich, for example, the difference in outcomes, health outcomes, and life expectancy, as I showed you, is dramatic. But Fairfield County also has the highest number of cases of individuals with COVID. And this is recent data from our own Connecticut government portal. 205,000 cases last week, or 575 per 10,000 residents, which comes out to about 5.7 cases, or 5.7%, right? So that's in Fairfield County, that's in Connecticut overall. In Fairfield County, we are responsible for about 61,000 of those cases. And everything else is a little bit lower, but that really does have to do with both the population of Fairfield County and the geographic or the socioeconomic spread. Next slide, please.
That's it. I think that's it.
Okay, so we'll talk about potential solutions later.
Yes, exactly. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Golar, for that sobering information. And you just highlighted how important it is for us to be here and an opportunity to help the community make small changes. Our next topic is actually going to be an interactive one. We have a poll, and a question should be popping up soon. You will have approximately a minute to answer this question, and then we'll find out how we all did. The first question: I understand the relationship between diet and health, and you can just check yes or no. All right, it's submit at the bottom.
So another 9 seconds to finish submitting your responses.
A very smart group here. We got 96%. Everybody almost understands your relationship between diet and health. Which brings us to the next topic, which is a relationship between diet and health. And we obviously want that to be harmonious. I find in my own life, it's contentious. But Dr. Lily Lachman will shed some light on that and also give us some guidance on how to marry those two things together. First and foremost, I would like to just bring about the central theme of the movie Soul Food Junkies. The relationship between diet and health is continually, we're reminded of it continually. It establishes that a poor diet can lead to disease, such as heart disease, cancers, and diabetes. Health issues that can be lessened or avoided with changes in personal behaviors are paramount. And so my first question is for Lily. You're a registered dietitian and a certified diabetes care and education specialist. What are those credentials? Some of us don't know exactly what a registered dietitian does. And what is your role in helping others to improve their health?
Good evening, everyone. So, Stephanie, I'm not a doctor yet. Thank you. I want to just thank the organizer of this group. Also thank the panelists too. I want to also thank you all for tuning in with us for this awesome session. It shows that you are looking out for your health and your wellness needs. So to answer the first part of your question, a registered dietitian, short for RD, is someone who is a food and nutrition expert. And I must clarify that every registered dietitian is a nutritionist, but not but a nutritionist cannot be called a registered dietitian. Registered dietitian, also called RD, is a licensed professional who provide evidence-based medical nutrition therapy for individuals with or without chronic diseases to improve their health, or we help with individuals to make treatment plans to meet their lifestyle goals or their health needs. Lastly, our services are reimbursable versus a nutritionist. Their services are not reimbursable by medical insurance. So, what is a certified diabetes care and education specialist? So, we are healthcare providers that have received education, I would say extensive education and experience. We are credentialed, we are licensed, and training on all things related to diabetes. This include blood glucose monitoring, medication management, meal planning, proper insulin storage and administration, and at most times, management of specialist appointments. And we also do lifestyle behavior changes. We also take a patient-centered approach in providing treatment plans that include lifestyle goals, beliefs, culture, and needs. And I think your last question, what is my role? My role is a registered dietitian nutritionist, we're called RDN for short, and a diabetes professional is to assist individuals to live healthier lives by providing them with simple tools like portion control, basic carb counting method to manage blood sugar for those who have diabetes. We help them to learn to eat another way called the plate method. We help them we encourage them to exercise or any other physical activity. We also encourage them to change their lifestyle to maintain their weight, or those with diabetes to manage their diabetes.
Okay, thank you. Also, in the movie, filmmaker Hurt discusses his father's struggle to change his diet. Why are eating habits so hard to break?
Well, I must say, our taste bud have been trained since we are young. We were trained with eating high calorie and high fat foods. As we saw in the documentary, the foods that the slave ate, or might have eaten, were high calorie foods for obvious reasons. More than likely, that was maybe their only meal for the day, right? So if we fast forward to today, we have created foods that taste very good, and natural foods like lettuce is a hard sell when compared to a juicy burger, especially one with cheese and bacon, right? So there's no comparison there. But let me go into some of the reasons that I think or I came up with. Number one, it could be one's taste and food preferences. Because I've had clients, the food doesn't taste good, I'm not eating it. My mother is one big example when she comes to stay with me sometimes. One's culture, as it relates to your ethnic background, one's religion, your body image. In some culture, being thick is okay, But in the United States, that's not the case, right? We all know that. It might have to do with one's time and convenience. Some people don't mind eating fast food all day long. They would say, I don't have time to prepare, a healthy meal. And someone touched on emotion and eating. It could be a strong emotional love of food. So I visited my neighbor and got caught up in my 600-pound life. I was watching this 34-year-old. So it seems as if they can't even find people that are 600 pounds. I'm seeing 900-pound people, 800. This lady was 900 pounds. She struggled getting out of bed. She couldn't put on her clothes. She couldn't even help herself to do everyday activities like washing herself, washing her hair, cleaning her house, even cooking. But the doorbell rang and here comes her breakfast. And she said that that's the best time of her day. She loved food. She felt it's like a fix. She's very satisfied. And when she sat to eat that food, she took a deep breath. That was her fix. And even though she felt disgusted with herself, she felt frustrated of that weight when that food came. 4 breakfast burritos, 4 breakfast sandwich, 4 smoothie, and her 2 cup of joe, of course with creams and sugar. She was in heaven. So the love of food. Also, if you're stressed, you're lonely, you're depressed, you're anxious, you are going to reach for that food without thinking, should I make a healthy choice? Another reason might be from abundance in the food in their house since you were growing up. The film shows it where that was the only food that was cooked, soul food, and they grow up eating that food. And then lastly, the clean plate mentality. Your mother said to you, a lot of people or a lot of children around the world are starving. Clean your plate. Or, why are you wasting the food? We don't have all that money to be wasting your food. So the unhealthy eating habit kicks in. That's it.
Yes. So, wow. When people come to you, they're carrying all this baggage. And so I know that you've been very successful here in Fairfield County. And I just wanted to show a clip of Annette Dillard. And before I show the clip, if you would like to tell us a little bit more about her, we'll watch that now.
Okay, so all is not lost in terms of, switching to eating healthy. So I met Annette in October. When she came to me, she'll tell most of the story, but when Annette came to me, her A1C was 16%, and I saw her 4 times, twice in October, once in November, and once in December before she went on to do her follow-up. And her A1C was 16%. And she had a big win in her weight reduction. Her A1C now is 7.7%. But Annette will tell you her story herself.
Oh, don't have any sound.
Lives out of state and is also in the medical profession. A few days later, she told me she had located a nutritionist in Stamford, Connecticut named Lily Latchman. Our initial
Sorry for that. Try it again.
consultation was set up, and from that point, my name is Annette Dillard, and I'm 58 years old. I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in September 20 at my annual physical. My A1C level was out of control. I reached out and called my oldest daughter, who lives out of state and is also in the medical profession. A few days later, she told me she had located a nutritionist in Stamford, Connecticut named Lily Latchman. Our initial consultation was set up, and from that point, I would meet with Lily virtually and in person twice a month. Lily told me the importance of counting carbs, that I had to drink water every day, and I had to exercise every day. Lily also told me that I needed to know the difference in terms of good carbs, bad carbs, and also control my portion sizes. It became a family affair because my daughters brought me an Apple Watch so that they can keep track of my exercise and hold me accountable. I can honestly say that I have lost over 23 pounds and I'm down 2 dress sizes. I will continue to work with Lily to get my A1C number down so that I no longer have to take medication.
That is a powerful testimonial. It's unbelievable in that amount of time she could lose 23 pounds. Congratulations to her success and yours. Did you want to add anything else that she didn't on how that all happened?
Well, what impressed me most was her diligence to do all the recommendation. I do my counseling with a patient-centered approach. If you want to do it, I'll meet you. But if you don't want to do it, I'm not gonna push. But a lot of research studies shows that if when you're recently diagnosed or newly diagnosed and you aggressively take your medication, eat healthy and exercise, a lot of research study shows that your A1C will be reduced. Even though she lost that weight, but the A1C from 16% to 7.7% is a huge win for her and for her family.
Thank you.
You're
We'll
welcome.
hear a lot more from you a little bit later.
Thank you.
We're going to move to our second poll question. I know how to find healthy, affordable food in my neighborhood. And I don't have any-
We'll end our polling now.
Okay. Not only is our group smart, but they know how to find what they need. 92% says that there's healthy, affordable food in their neighborhood. So that's where we stand there, which also leads into our next topic: universal access to healthy food, healthy and affordable food, and changing public attitudes. In the film, food justice activist Bryant Terry states that while many have said that soul food has been the bane of African American health, the bigger enemy to our health has been the industrialization of our food system. The objective of the food industry has been make it cheap, make it fast, and make it convenient, not necessarily to make it nutritious. And while some have been able to command more locally grown, healthier alternatives, these options are often more widely available in wealthier communities. To answer this question, I would first like to welcome Pete Novajowski from Fairgate Farm. Again, hello. And I will pose this question to you. How is Fairgate Farm improving access to fresh, nutritious food affordably in our community?
Thank you, Stephanie. So great to be here, by the way. Happy to be part of this. Fairgate Farm, first and foremost, we're growing this food right here in the community. We're right on Stillwater Avenue in the heart of the west side of Stamford. So as far as location goes, you don't have to go far to access this food. And we have different kind of avenues to get this food to people. From our start 10 years ago, we're open for the community. Anybody's welcome to come to the farm, you volunteer, helping out, whether it's watering, planting, weeding, harvesting the food, and then you get to go home with that food at no cost to you, except just some time. So that's one way. A few years back, we started our own farm market. So we sell the produce that we grow at the farm, as well as we source additional produce from other local farms in Connecticut. And we sell all of it at very competitive prices, especially for organic food. Everything we do is organic that we grow at the farm. So it's quality, nutritious food at great prices. And even if you can't afford that, we also offer some assistance programs to help make it affordable. We really want anybody, if you want to be able to eat this healthy, nutritious, fresh produce, we want to make sure that you're able to get access to it.
That's incredible. Does everyone know about this? And how do you reach out to the community to make them aware of it?
So we are really just kind of getting ourselves out there. We work with school groups and a lot of different community groups, things like this, just kind of get the word out there. And then when people come, have experience at the farm, whether they're volunteering, getting their hands in the dirt, maybe a student went to the farm one day, had a great experience, told their parents about it, or coming to the market and seeing just all the variety of produce grown right there, in this little lot. Just word of mouth has kind of been spreading around a lot of Stamford. So we're hoping we're doing a good job with that, and we keep trying to get the word out there.
Okay, that's great. And also, has COVID made you make any changes to what your normal procedure is? Has it affected your mission at all?
Sure. So yeah, I think like everybody, when everything started with COVID, almost a year ago now, it was definitely kind of earth shattering for us. We're right in the peak of the prep season. In March, our greenhouse was full of little seedlings ready to go outside. And then, we kind of had to take a step back for a second and reassess what we're going to do. But we were able to adapt and, still get volunteers into the farm safely. Luckily, we're outdoors, so it's kind of the best environment to be in during all this. And we kind of, we switched our classes. We always offer free classes. So instead of in person, we were able to switch those to virtual and have Zoom classes. Our farmers market, we were able to do online ordering and have curbside pickup. So it's, contactless. So we kind of made those changes. And also, I think just on a bigger focus on just getting food to people, the disruptions in the food supply chain, which, who would have thought in 2020 United States of America, you can't get meat or different produce or toilet paper, it's so hard. So this local food system, you don't have to go far. It's grown right here. There's no trucking issues or anything like that. It's right here. And also for the people that, without jobs, all this food also is more expensive. So we, grew as much as we could. We donated as much as we could. And we're offering food all year at the farmers market at no cost as well. So really trying to boost the produce that's available to people.
You guys are doing a phenomenal job. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you a little bit more. Filmmaker Hurt also reminds us in the movie Soulful Junkies that as modern conveniences, fast food and processed foods become more available when they are substituted for healthier ingredients. This helped us to give rise to food justice activists seeking to push back, teaching their communities to prioritize healthier choices. In the late 1960s, comedian Dick Gregory and Nation of Islam leader Elijah Muhammad called upon African Americans to make changes to improve their diets. And in current times, activists like Alice Waters, founder of the Slow Food Movement, or Bryant Terry, vegan chef and author, have been proponents of change. In all of these cases, they sought to help people and communities to improve their diet through a philosophy of when you know better, you do better. Again, Pete, I would like to ask you this question. When it comes to diet and nutrition, how does Fairgate Farm help people in our community know and do better? And you answered it a little bit, but how would you expound on that?
Sure. So I think, simply like the classes that we do are one way we help people through the education aspect. We do nutrition classes, gardening classes, you can grow your own food. We do food demos, cooking demonstrations where we work with the produce that we harvest right there at the farm and provide, simple recipes that you can do, show people how to do it, give them samples. They get to taste it and see, this is healthy food grown with this fresh produce. It could taste really, really good. So simple things like that. But also I think more important even is just the experience that the farm provides for people, how you could really get immersed in food from, seed to harvest, being able to get your hands in the soil, be able to pick the vegetables yourself, watch them grow. I think that can be even more impactful than, just making a smarter, healthier choice at the grocery store, being able to really take part in what food is and being outside, fresh air and physical activity. I think it all ties together to real impactful changes in your life.
Yeah. And it sounds like a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, we try.
So most importantly, what's at stake here is that we need to find ways to take control of our health, whether by modifying our diet, seeking and substituting healthier foods, or continuing to educate ourselves on how to reduce the impact from preventable diseases, viruses such as COVID. As Hurt in the movie reflects on his father's struggle to gain control over his diet and health challenge observes, change is hard to make. Habits are hard to break. Dr. Golar, what strategies have you found to be more effective to motivate people to make and sustain changes to improve their health? Oops.
There are multiple strategies. I'm going to let Lily Latchman speak to the plate planner, but I do want folks to know that despite the changes in medical school education, nutrition, which is a central part of wellness, is actually taught and provided best by dietitians like Lily. But it doesn't mean that you have to wait to, develop a good diet and good eating habits. It's really important to pay attention to small changes in diet, exercise, relationships, the way that we sleep. So what I usually do when somebody comes to see me is I try to understand where they are. A hallmark of effective care is to meet people where they are and then work together to take one small step. So if someone loves soda, and in the film they were talking about addictions and how that's like it's all about pleasure, right? Well, we can be addicted to many things, and some things are associated with more stigma than others. But if we are addicted to chocolate chip cookies or soda, it doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't work to kind of beat up on ourselves. It makes much more sense to say, okay, so what would be one small change, right? So, and I see the affirmation, so that makes me really happy because this is what I've done in my practice. And if the person says, I can cut the amount of soda in half, that's a great beginning. If they say, I can substitute seltzer water for soda, but I still want that fizzy flavor, even better. But the whole idea is to start from where you are and take small steps. Another major a modality that we overlook is the value of mindfulness. And when I say mindfulness, I'm not talking about a particular meditative practice, although lots of practices do incorporate mindfulness, but something as simple as breathing. Most of us breathe really unconsciously. And so that anxiety around, I want the ice cream, I want the ice cream, I want the ice cream. If you can stop and take a few deep breaths between the desire for the ice cream and the action that you take, that action can change. It might be that instead of eating a whole pint, maybe you're going to just eat a couple of spoonfuls. It might be that you realize that as much as you wanted the ice cream a minute ago, it really isn't that important at all. Or you can change your state and say, let me go for a walk around the block before I have the ice cream. And lo and behold, you run into a friend or, see a beautiful sunset, and all of a sudden the focus shifts. So there are lots of small things that we can do, lots of changes that we can make. There were a couple of questions in the chat and in the Q&A, so I'm just going to answer one that just kept recurring. What's the right hemoglobin A1C? So anything over 5.7 puts you in the diabetic range, the range of diabetes, right? So you want your hemoglobin A1C to be 5.6 or lower. Too low is bad, but let's say in the range of the fives, right? So under 5.7. But then another question that came in was, what is the right hemoglobin A1C for a person who is 60? It's less associated with age and more associated with your condition, with what else is going on. So I don't know that if you have a hemoglobin A1C that's 5.7 or greater, you really want to make changes in your diet. You need to look at that diagnosis of diabetes. I'm not going to diagnose anyone in this video, in this call, because there are lots of circumstances. Some people develop diabetes when they're pregnant and then go back to normal once the baby is delivered. Other people develop diabetes on medication and it goes back to normal when the medication stops. So whether or not you have a diagnosis has to do with a lot of things. But know that that number, 5.7, is a magic number. If someone is diagnosed with diabetes, the question of what is the right hemoglobin A1C is a question that should be addressed with your doctor. Because there's a conversation about tight control versus loose control. And depending on what else is going on in your life and where you are, what stage of life, what other medical conditions and so forth, that conversation about the ideal hemoglobin A1C should be made in conjunction with, your treatment team. Your treatment team, if you have diabetes, should definitely include a dietitian, and that person will work with you to figure out what's realistic for you, and also how to change your diet safely. Not go from solving one problem, diabetes, to creating another problem with a bad diet or unwise eating habits. So I hope that addresses that. We can come back to that later. Small change.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, and also we will have a Q&A session towards the end.
Great.
Yes, thank you for letting us all know that we don't have to give up the Diet Coke in just one fell swoop.
Oh, wait, we'll talk about diet food later. It totally calms the system. So,
okay.
Right? We should work together. This is great. Okay, please continue.
Okay.
You can see our enthusiasm. This is wonderful.
Oh, yeah, this is a very hot topic. Lily, what are some of the practical ways that an individual can take steps to improve their health? I know you.
Thanks for that question. So my favorite mantra is to eat is a necessity, but to eat healthily is an art. Yeah. So some of the practical ways an individual can take steps to improve their health is, but one, Dr. Golar spoke about making small changes. And I find that one change that I usually ask them to make is use a plate method. Is there a slide for this?
That was that slide, yes.
Yes. So use a plate method. And I find that if I give them this plate and said to them, first of all, I said you could buy this on Amazon or take one of your breakfast plate. So because American dinner plate, they're like 12 inches, right? Very, very big. So I said, take your dinner plate, and then half of that plate should be vegetable. And I'm talking non-starchy vegetables. And we could go into that another time, or so if someone needs to know, we could discuss that. Quarter of it should be whole grains, like your brown rice, your quinoa, your oatmeal, your farro, or any other grains. And the other quarter should be your lean protein or your plant-based vegetable or your plant-based meat, right? And then you're going to use that, and you're going to use that for breakfast time, not breakfast, you're going to use that for lunchtime and dinner time. So sometimes I run into people like, oh, Lily, that's too much. I met this guy, he's newly diagnosed. He said to me, I get all of that. What you're saying is great, but I can only make one change. And I said, what's that one change? He said, I'll count my carb, which is another way of monitoring your portion size. So on this one plate, you're like, but how will I know how much to eat? To make this plate individualized, because no two persons is alike. We have 200 pounds, 100 pounds, we have 150 pounds. So what I usually do is to use something called the hand method. So your starch on your plate, which is your rice and bean over there, which looks so yummy, should be the size of your fist. Your protein should be the size of your palm of your hand. One guy said, this, Lily, I like, no, the size of the palm of your hand, right? The picture is right there. Okay, and then your vegetable, which is half of your plate, can be half, but it could also be unlimited, because vegetables have carb, but it's very low in carbs. So that's where I always start. I know there's like information on that for fats, for if you're doing nuts and stuff like that, but I never go into all of that yet. I usually just stick to that simple recommendation. Then Dr. Goller spoke about mindful eating. And one thing about mindful eating is not eating in front of the TV or while you're driving. Take time to kind of like savor your meal. Make sure when you're eating, it connects to the brain. Because most times when people I sometimes say, snuff down their food, they don't have time to taste what's going on, right? So I always say, step back, sit down, take that time to meditate on your food, taste what you're eating. And then rethink your drink. So instead of drinking soda or sugar sweetened beverages, some people talk about drinking Red Bull. Some people talk about, oh, sports drinks are great, energy drinks are great. Not so much. They're packed with calories and sugar. So it's best to do water all the time, or seltzer water. Or you could do 100% fruit juice, not drink. You have to turn the box around, look on the label part, and at the top it should say 100% juice. Those with diabetes, you have to be mindful, because quarter cup is 1 serving of carb. And then you can also have low-fat milk. But my favorite is a plant-based milk, because the plant-based milk have no cholesterol, very low in calories. You're talking about 120 calories versus 25 or 30 calories at times, and 0 cholesterol, 0 fat. We don't have to worry about, oh, but I need my calcium. This is America. You get calcium from so many different foods. Drop that whole milk. You're too old to be drinking whole milk. And you have to be under 2 years old to be drinking whole milk or diagnosed with malnutrition from a medical doctor. And lastly, but very important, exercise regularly. You should be exercising at least 5 days per week. Most of the health institutes recommend that, right? American Heart Association, American College of Medicine recommend that. American Diabetes Association recommend that 30 minutes of exercise per week, at least 5 days a week, is the gold standard to keep your heart going. And for weight loss, you have to do at least 60 minutes a day for weight loss. So choose activities that you enjoy. Do it with a friend. Try new things. Try some salsa. I have a client, believe it or not, she loves to do belly dancing. And that's what she does. And she works at home. And she said, Lily, whenever I get a little break, overwhelmed, I just turn my music on and I do my belly dancing. And I think that was awesome. So whatever you try to do something fun that you can stick to it, and do not go to the gym or try something difficult at the first time you're trying it. You're going to be in pain and you're going to hate exercise. Start slowly and then increase, and always get recommendation from your medical doctor before you start exercising.
Thank you so very much for that.
You're welcome.
We learned a lot, and I'd like to know more about the cheese and nuts and the thumb. I had no idea you could eat so few cheese and nuts. But next, I have a question for Pete. I understand there are a couple of exciting developments going on at Fairgate Farm. Can you talk about some of those projects, the expansion project, as well as the hydroponic greenhouse?
Sure. So yeah, right now we're just kind of wrapping up construction of a new greenhouse at the farm, which we're very excited about. It's going to be our year-round growing now. Normally we would shut down for the winter months, but now with the new greenhouse, we'll be able to grow all winter long, get more school groups involved, as well as hopefully in the near future, start our own winter market, which will be able to, extend the season. Instead of having a 5 or 6 month market, we'll be able to have fresh produce available year round at the farm. So really excited for that.
Excellent, thank you. We have our final audience poll coming up. Okay, there it is. I understand small changes can help me gain control of my health. Based on tonight's program, I plan to adopt one or more of the following activities, and you can just mark all that apply. After the polling results, we're going to move right into the Q&A with Link Ivy. Okay, very interesting. So I understand small changes can help me gain, again, control of my health. Based on tonight's program, I plan to, 55% say they are convinced they should substitute the water for, substitute soda or juice and use water instead. Reduce the size of portions. 71% of participants said that they would try to do that, which is excellent. Exercise daily, again, very high, 69%. Find a farmer's market and buy locally grown vegetables and fruits, 55%. And the last one was adopt meditative techniques into daily routine, 48%. So I'd say overall, panelists, you have persuaded our audience.
Great.
And we have Link Ivy.
Thank you, Stephanie. And thank you to our panelists and to our audience for sticking with us. We are actually a little over time, but I hope that you all can spare a few more minutes to participate in the Q&A. And if you do have questions, please type them into the Q&A button on the bottom of your screen. We already have a couple of questions, so I'd like to pose those while others are typing their questions in. And this first question, I think could go to either Lily or Dr. Golar or both. The question is, I am a 54-year-old female. How can I change my emotional eating habits? I don't think it's hormonal.
That's a great question. Do you want to start that or should I? Either.
I think I answered that question, but emotional eating sometimes have to do with some kind of mental thing going on. So I would say is first to find out why. I do have a client who binge eat, and what I did with her to set a goal, write down every time you binge eat what was happening at that time. She was either stressed, she was either overworked, she was either angry. It was always an underlying reason why you eat emotionally. So as I said before I could like move on to like, see what's going on, you have to find out, why am I eating this way?
I completely agree. The other thing is that, so I'm an internist by training. I see adults in primary care. And so a lot of us doctors were trained in the biomedical model, so that all diseases in the body, et cetera. But increasingly, we know that that is not true, that the body and the mind are intimately connected. And actually, it's body, mind, spirit, but that's for another talk. So what I feel is that counseling actually should be part of primary care. And by counseling, I really do mean therapy, finding a person that you can talk with. And in some communities, there is a feeling that, I'm not going to share my business, or, but that's kind of old school thinking. So, as Lily is saying, that sometimes these habits can have deep roots, emotional roots, and the right thing to do is to find out what they are.
Thank you. The next question, I believe, would be for Lily. And it is, how do I find out how much protein I should eat based on my weight, to follow the plate method that you referenced?
Okay, so if you're not physically active like an athlete, or if you're not breastfeeding, or if you're not pregnant, for just a normal protein intake, it's 0.8 kilograms times your body weight. So that would be it. So, or one kilogram times your body weight, and 1 kilogram is equal to 2.2 pounds. So that's like a quick calculation there.
Great, thank you.
Or as I said before, don't even go into all the science of all of that. Just use the palm of your hand. If that chicken or that pork chop or that piece of fish could fit here, if it's bigger than here, like an 8-ounce steak, no, that's too much.
Thank you. Okay, our next question, what are the best diets based on age groups, like ketogenic or intermittent fasting?
Okay. Do you want to take that first, Dr. Gola?
Sure. I actually don't recommend diets because diets usually are temporary, unless somebody's on a diet because they have a chronic illness and, they have diabetes or they have kidney disease. But in general, I really encourage folks to move to move away from diets and move toward lifestyle changes. Lifestyle changes ideally will incorporate dietary changes, but they become permanent, like a way of life. So instead of saying I'm going to be on a diet and I'm not going to eat ice cream for, the next couple of weeks or months, the moment that you start eating the ice cream again, if you haven't learned how to eat it in a healthy way, the weight goes back on. And one of the worst things about dieting is the yo-yo effect, where you go up and down. It's very stressful for the system and it's really bad for morale. Lily, what do you think?
Sure. So one of the philosophy of my business is eating healthy to sustain longevity, and also push you continue to eat the food you love without eliminating any nutrient. Don't eliminate fat, don't eliminate carb, and don't eliminate anything else. So a good, if the person so desire want to follow a diet, clicking on the internet is called the DASH diet. It's dietary approach to stop hypertension. Or you could do and let me break that down a little. So it's a diet with high in fiber, low in dairy product, and high in lean meat and lots of vegetables. And then the Mediterranean diet is something similar, or a plant-based diet, which is the big thing now, to do a plant-based. Of course, I believe that the plant-based diet has to be guided, especially if the person have diabetes. So those are 3 diets that I usually say, it's okay if you want to do it on your own, follow these diets, but you still could incorporate the My Plate plan using these diets.
So, and the important thing about those actually are very well recognized. And so those are the ones that the science supports. But the key is you have to continue. You can't say, okay, I did the plant-based diet for 3 months and now I'm good. I'm going to go back to eating McDonald's. But I love those 3.
So our next question is, what are some of the best replacements for bad carbs?
You want to take that one?
So bad carbs. So I wouldn't say bad carbs per se. So my bad carbs would be processed foods. So instead of eating a baked potato, you're eating potato chips. Or instead of eating, your own baked potato or French fries, making your own French fries, you go out to McDonald's and buy this French fries that we all know could stay on the counter for how many years and not spoil. So that, I would say, processed foods are foods that are not natural. It's not naturally grown, or it's not in its first stage. So foods that you have to buy from a packet, those would be processed foods, or those would be carbs that you want to stay away from. You want to get foods that are in its natural states.
Thank you. So this next question is for Pete, and the question is, does Fairgate Farms have any programs for children? How do you get the children involved in healthy eating?
Absolutely. So we are open. Education is one of the big aspects of what we like to do with the farm. So we invite children all the time. We have school groups that come through and take tours of the farm. So we do that. We offer all the classes that we offer regularly. We'll do that for a school group. We're even working more organized now. We received a grant from the USDA to, as part of Farm to School grant. So what that is doing is connecting the farm with the Chartwells, which is the food provider for the Stanford school system. So we're working with them to get the kids more involved with their food at school, to know where it comes from, getting more local food onto their plate, and to, kind of also the tastes, what kids like to eat. Everybody has different opinions of what school lunches are and what, cafeteria food is. So getting these kids involved with that and having a say in what they're eating and, why they should be eating this type of food. So we're big proponents of getting, kids as young as possible involved with where their food comes from. And I think, as I'm sure, our other panelists can say, starting at a young age is much easier to convince a kid to try to eat something than, changing an adult who's been eating a certain way their whole life. So absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, so we've got quite a few other questions coming in. Here's an interesting one. Why do veggies and fruit and healthy eating make me gassy?
So it usually has to do with cellulose, fiber. And that's not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing. You want to eat foods that are high in fiber, but if you haven't been eating foods that are high in fiber, the body may not be used to them. And so that can result in gas. Also, different people have different abilities to digest fiber. So fiber can make some people more gassy than others. But that's not a reason not to eat fiber. It just means that you might want to experiment with different types of fiber, different times of the day, different meals. And also Beano works. Lily, do you want to add anything?
Yes, so the doctor, yeah, I do the part where I come up with a treatment. Like you're constipated, you're gassy, go to the dietitian, see what she could help you with. So when you eat more fiber, everything that Dr. Golar said, totally correct. But one is drinking a lot of water. Drinking a lot of water. Most times you're not drinking water. So you need that water inside of you. Because remember, when you eat some of these fiber, they kind of swells in your body. Like oatmeal, for instance, when you do eat oatmeal, it goes into your stomach and it gets bigger. So that can be gassy. So drinking a lot of water is helpful. Or like if you're cooking beans too, if you open the pot cover when you're cooking beans, some of the air, some of the gas will also come out. The same for cabbage or any vegetable. Don't close it while you're cooking it. Open it to get some of the gas out.
Thank you.
I did not know that. That is good to know.
This program. Okay, so the next question is, do you have an opinion on nutritional eating based on blood type? Does it matter?
So I don't have enough expertise to speak about it definitively. There is a philosophy that says that it does matter, and but it has not made it into the mainstream in a way that allows me to say, here's what it is. I don't know, Lily, would you add anything?
That's correct. I have not seen like a paired study, research study that says, yes, this is the way to go. And if it was that easy, we wouldn't have this problem, right?
Right.
We won't have this problem at all.
So what happens is that we make these decisions based on the gold standard, which is a randomized double-blind clinical trial. And that's also another talk. But the idea is that the results of those studies find their way into the medical literature, and that provides evidence. That everything that is good does not have evidence to support it. That's why there's so-called alternative medicine. But increasingly, there are things from the alternative medicine world that have made it into the mainstream. So many doctors like myself really do embrace, many aspects of care that don't have a lot of evidence. But right now that theory lives in the world of not having a lot of evidence. So that's why we have to leave you with that.
Okay, so we have time for maybe 2 more questions, and we have 4. One is for you, Pete, and that is people from the community get involved with Fairgate Farms.
You said, how do people get involved?
How can they, if they want to work at the farm or volunteer?
Sure. So, our website is the best place to go, fairgatefarm.com. There's tons of information on there with all our contact info, signing up to volunteer, our educational programs, all of our classes. We keep that updated. We're going to be running some virtual classes actually over the next, few weeks. So there's always a lot of things going on, even in the dead of winter when nothing should be going on. We're always growing something. So definitely check out the website and, shoot an email, give us a call. We're open, always accepting more volunteers. So just reach out.
Thank you, Pete. Okay, and now we have another question from someone who is not diabetic. However, attendee does have high blood pressure and questions whether or not people should have similar eating practices, or if you recommend similar eating practices for people with diabetes and high blood pressure to help control or lower the blood pressure.
Yes, absolutely. But in addition to watching out for carbs, you have to really pay attention to salt when you have high blood pressure. But that's once again a really great reason to see a dietitian, because salt is hidden in lots of places that we'd be surprised. Lily, this is also your bailiwick.
Yes, that's correct. It's two total different diets right there. One, when I was a clinical dietitian, if I go to see someone who has high blood pressure, it would be a low sodium diet. So 2,000 calories a day, 2,000 milligrams of sodium per day. And that person, if that person have diabetes, they will go on a consistent carbohydrate diet. So it's two different diets right there. And it's all individualized. Like, it's not a broad diet for everyone.
We don't want to make it sound scary. So the thing is that both of those are associated with increased weight, overweight and obesity.
Yeah.
So one person might go on to develop diabetes if they have a family disposition, or if their favorite way of putting on the weight is, through lots of sugary sweets, etc. Another person might go on to develop hypertension. Another factor that plays a role in both those conditions is alcohol. And both from the carbohydrate standpoint and the fact that it increases your blood pressure. So if you think that if you're concerned about high blood pressure, one way to address that concern is to eliminate added salt. That doesn't mean you never use salt in cooking, but it means take the salt shaker away from the table. Also, if you drink alcohol, start to look at how much and see if reducing it can make a difference. Or you can experiment. I'm not talking about people that have a diagnosed drinking issue or very heavy drinkers, because if you drink heavily and then stop suddenly, that can be dangerous. But if your drinking is creeping up during COVID time, this is true for many of us, experiment with saying, I'm not going to have that glass of wine tonight, or maybe for a week, and see how that goes. See if that makes a difference. Alcohol is associated with increased weight, and also it pushes people more toward diabetes if they have a predisposition.
And I might add too, weight loss plays a huge role in lowering both numbers, A1C and your blood pressure.
Yes.
Great. Well, thanks to all of the panelists for responding to questions. I do have one comment, and Elizabeth, this might be for you. They've asked for a contact list for all three of the panelists.
Yeah, so we'll be following up with everyone who registered with the list of resources and handouts from both Dr. Golar and Lily. And we'll also be including the contact information for Pete as well.
Thank you.
It's almost 8 o'clock. We have two people that raised their hands, Ivy. Should we give them a minute to express their thoughts?
Are you going to let them speak, or do they have to put their comments in the chat or the Q&A?
I think we can let them speak. There was, I think, only 2 people, and Kim, did you want to say something before we?
No, I'm great. This has been a fantastic program. So I would just say thank you to everyone, our audience, the panelists, and the links who planned this tonight. And of course, to you, Elizabeth, our partner.
So before we close, can we let Eleanor Bowman make some comments, as well as Dr. Fort?
Yes.
Okay, so Eleanor, please share.
She's on mute.
Please unmute, Eleanor. I don't know what happened to Eleanor.
Maybe we should Dr. Tabitha Fort.
Yeah, Dr. Fort.
And you're on mute, Dr. Fort.
Oh yeah, they both are.
I don't know, maybe you need to unmute them, Elizabeth?
Yes. I don't know what happened to them. All right, so since we're not hearing from them, maybe we can wrap up. Thank you, Valerie, for coming out. We appreciate your comments. So I think as our closing, I just wanted to share again that I will be reaching out to, I think the Lings and the Ferguson Library will follow up with an email listing all the resources and handouts so that you have them and you have all the information of our panelists that you can contact them. I also want to close out and say for February, we have a whole lot of programs, family programs, especially for Black History Month. So our flyer and publicity materials are going to be coming out soon. Please watch out for that. So thank you for joining us tonight. I think this has been like a great hour and a half, time really well spent. Thank you, Dr. Golar and Lily and Pete. It was really great to hear so much, learn so many new things, right?
Yes, definitely.
Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Have a
for-
great evening.
Thank
So.
you.
Bye.
Night, everyone.
Bye,
Night.
everyone. Good night.
Good night. Thanks so much.
All right. Bye.